Alright. Right now, I do the other comedy part from the other. Oh, this is oh, this is Mr. Hornsby 3. The Mr. Hornsby 3 show, and today, let me compose myself. Today, I'm going to be talking about which version of it is scarier, and this debate sparked between me and Heavy Metal Turtle. So I'm going to break down which version of it I think is scarier. I just got done watching the two newer ones. I know the old one like the back of my hands, which tells you which one I might probably like better. But, so we're going to talk about that. And which one do you think is scarier as well? But, before we do that, since I completely forgot to do it Monday, because I went straight into my favorite vampire movies, I think it was, or no. I'll talk about the Jazz Wears AEW news, which I'll talk about that in a minute too. But before I do this, before I start this video, I gotta do this. Who they think gonna beat the Bengals? The Minnesota Vikings, who not only beat the Bengals, but they crushed the Cincinnati Bengals. So yeah, had to get that in. Who they? Yeah, ha, 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 yeah, hoo, yeah. Look, I had two out of myself. I mean, it is one game. And we're 3-0 right now, but we haven't played no really good team, so I can't. But anyway, alright. So, we're going to talk about which version of the It movie is scarier. Now, before I start this, I guess I'll go with frickin' the original It movie. And I'll talk about some of the things that were very scary about that movie. I'll talk about how, yeah, in that one they used more practical effects. But they used practical effects in the newer ones too, I think. But, like scenes like, when Pennywise comes in the book and he's sitting there telling all the kids he's going to kill them all and his hand comes out of the thing. That's kind of scary. That was kind of terrifying for its time. And I'll be honest with you. Even though the original It did not scare me, and I'll explain why the original It didn't scare me as much as the newer one did. But, my sister, when we saw this movie in 1990, my sister is scared of clowns partially because of the It movie, the one with Tim Curry. But she's also scared of clowns because of the freaking clown jester in the Puppet Master movies. Because we got to watch a lot of horror movies when we were kids. So yeah, because my parents were cool like that. My stepmom, or not my stepmom, my biological mom and my stepdad were cool like that. They just told us, look, y'all know this is fake, right? We're like, yeah, we know it's fake. And they freaking, that's what I told my kids when I let my kids watch horror young. I'm like, look, y'all know this is fake. It's not real. Now, my son was scared of Chucky for a bit, but, he got over it. But, anyway, let's talk about, the scene where he comes up and he's in the book, he tells the kids he's going to kill them all and his hand comes out. Yeah, that was terrifying. One thing I will say, in the voices between Pennywise in the newer It movie and Pennywise in the older It movie, Bill Skarsgård's voice is not as freaking terrifying as Tim Curry. Tim Curry's voice is a very terrifying voice. I mean, if you watch Legend, you know how terrifying voice that freaking Tim Curry has. So yeah, Pennywise, so the older movie does win over the voice of, Tim Curry's voice over Bill Skarsgård's. The way freaking Bill Skarsgård played Pennywise, it was like he was a kid himself. But Tim Curry's, voice is just so freaking more terrifying. Also, the scene in the original, where frickin' Pennywise is in the frickin' shower and he's got Eddie cornered and he's sitting there taunting him and all that stuff. That was kind of terrifying. The part where they go down to fight him the first time and you see his frickin' deadlights going through the frickin' thing. Because in the second one you see what that turned out to be in the second part of that movie. But when you see him in the original one and he's just going through the sewer like that, that's pretty terrifying as well. But, yeah, another thing that's terrifying about the older one is, let's see, what else? I'm trying to think, I like the scene where frickin' find Stanley dead after committing, you know, the S word. I'll just call it the S word because apparently I hear YouTube's cracking down on people using that one word where people commit harm to themselves and end their own life. So, I don't know. Suicide, yeah. I'll say it once. Suicide. Where Stanley's commit suicide. That was kind of scary. I think the part where the wolf is like scaring frickin' young Richie. That's kind of scary too. What else? I think the final fight in part 2 of the It movie, I think it's still kind of scary. You know. Yeah, you also got the bullies who were terrifying as well, but not as terrifying. I'll talk about the bullies in a minute for both versions of It. But yeah, the bullies, you know, all that, you know, yeah. What else? I guess the part where, you know, where they're in a Chinese restaurant, that was kind of scarier than the original part. Just because of the way the actors sold it in that part. In the newer one, it's kind of goofy and campy. I'll say that, because like I just finished the second one. I watched the first one yesterday, and then I watched the second part today. And yeah, the second one kind of looks goofy and campy. You know, Jeb's back way in the corner going, Mike hitting the frickin' table with the chair. I think that scene was scarier in the original movie. But, yeah. I don't know. Oh, what else? Hey, yeah, when Pennywise turns into a wolf, that's kind of scary. The part of the skeleton, it's a little scary. But then it's like, yeah. It's not that scary where Ben sees his dad and he's like all freaking freaked out after the bullies like chase him or whatever. So, I don't know. But yeah, that part with Stan, that was really creepy. Also the part where, they're in the library and Stan's head, the decapitated head, is sitting there freaking talking to him all and talking about, I worry about you, Bevy. I worry about you a lot. And, something I'll say that was scarier in the older one than the newer one is, of course, the part where Beverly goes back to her old place and, and freaking, the old lady's there, but then when she's picking up the cup for teas, I mean, the lady looked creepy even before she transformed. But then she looked even creepier when she transformed. So, yeah, that part's pretty scary. But, yeah. Most of the rest of the movie was pretty much Tim Curry trying to be Freddy Krueger. That's pretty much what I'll say about the original It. Like I said, I like the original It. And, I know that one like the back of my hand. Unlike the newer one, which I've only watched a handful of times. So, yeah. But, yeah. I gotta say, Tim Curry's voice is way creepier than Bill Skarsgård's period in the movie. I mean, so freaking terrifying. Alright, so now we've talked about what all makes the original one scarier than the newer one. Now let's talk about what makes the newer one the scariest version of the movie. First off, let's start out with the beginning where where Georgie's about to get eaten by Pennywise. And you got the part where Pennywise eats him and kills him, It's not really scary, but that's like a gut punch to you. It's like, oh my god, he just freaking ate the kid. They show him actually eating the kid this time. Also, another thing too is, you know, the original one had a lot of flashback scenes from the when they were kids. The two-parter for this one, it shows, you know, the kids part mostly in that one, and they don't turn into adults. Like in the older one, they're already adults, but then they're remembering their encounter with Pennywise. Because the original one starts out with Pennywise killing a little girl. They don't show it though. It's like a quick cut of, you know, Pennywise's face, the girl looking back at him, Pennywise looking, and he waves to her, and then she waves back, and then eventually his teeth get razor sharp, and then like they do a quick cut, and then the girl's gone. Georgie, though, you see Georgie actually get eaten. That's kind of a gut punch moment. But prior to Georgie getting eaten, one of the things that was most terrifying about this movie is the fact that, you know, what was more terrifying than the original is that, you know, when Georgie first sees Pennywise, Pennywise is already standing in the frickin' sewer, and he's just talking to Georgie. But I could be wrong. Maybe Pennywise just popped out like he did in the newer one. Been a while since I watched the other one, but I could have swore Pennywise is already just standing there, or he just walks out, you know, freely in front of him, and he don't jump scare like the frickin' like the Pennywise in the newer one. But when you see Georgie sees Pennywise first you see Pennywise glowing evil eyes, and then he pops out, like, kind of jumps out, scares Georgie. And, you know, that's a little scarier than freaking just standing there saying, "Hey, how you doing, Georgie? I'm Pennywise, that dancing clown." So yeah, that part was kind of, you know, scarier than the original version. Alright. Next one is when he goes after one of the bullies. He kills the one bully that looks like the frickin' I don't know, kind of looks like the dude from kind of looks like Justin Long, and then kind of looks like the dude from frickin' the guy that looks like the dude that was Kylo Ren. I don't know, but yeah. So yeah, when he goes after him, that's kind of scary. One part that I think was scarier than the original was the part. I just watched the movie yesterday, and I'm almost forgetting everything already. Almost forgetting it. I guess, you know, that shows which one's more memorable too, I guess. Another scary part is right after Richie gets eaten, the lady saw Georgie, the lady saw Georgie there talking to something in the sewer, and then she frickin' just walks away. And then she comes back and Georgie's gone, and there's blood flowing through the frickin' thing, and she don't even do nothing. She just walks back into the house. And all the time the evil cat is sitting there watching it as well, so yeah. That's another part that I think's scary. Another thing too I gotta say, and let's get into the bullies. Yeah, the bully in the original one was dastardly and was scary. You think he would actually try to kill the kids, but numerous times, and even toward the end, the frickin' bully in the frickin' newer one actually does kill people. He kills his frickin' dad. He kills his other friends. He frickin' almost kills a cat. But his dad came out and punked him out or whatever. And let's see. He frickin' sees Pennywise this time around, unlike in the original movie where he didn't really see Pennywise. He didn't see Pennywise till the second part of that one. Also the part where Bill's down in the basement and Pennywise is talking to him, and he's like, you know, "You lied and I died, you lied and I died." Yeah, it's annoying, but it's also kind of terrifying too. And then Pennywise just jumps out trying to get Bill. You know, but Bill runs up the stairs. Oh yeah, other parts where he goes after frickin' where he goes after Stan. That creepy looking thing that you see in those fake freaking real monster videos. Yeah, that thing was creepier than the freaking than anything in the original. I think the original, yeah, you had the Wolfman scare and all that stuff, but you can tell that was somebody in a freaking costume. I mean, come on now. I mean, yeah, it was 1990, but you can tell that was somebody in a freaking costume. But you know, also the part where the headless freaking thing is chasing, I think it's Ben. That's kind of that's a little scarier too. One thing I will say, something that scared me more in this one than in the original one is the frickin' parents. The reason why I say the parents are scary, because there's a point where frickin' Harry Bowers and his goons are about to, it's right before the other bully gets killed, they're about to frickin' try to kill Ben for real. These people drive past, see it, and don't even do nothing. They overlook it. You know, and yeah, you might have got some of that in the original, but you didn't get as much as you did in the newer one. I mean, heck, the frickin' parents just didn't care what happened. But when the kids came up missing, then they would frickin' care. Let's see, what else? Yeah, the headless thing chasing frickin' Ben, that's kind of scary. What else? I swear there was a part where there was a mannequin. Maybe that's a different movie. I don't know. I swear there was a part where a mannequin chases somebody, but I don't know. Yeah, let's see. Also, the part where frickin' Eddie's by the house and frickin' Pennywise, you know, has that one monster give him his pills, and then Eddie gets scared, runs to the backyard, and Pennywise is right there. And then Eddie, you know, has to jump, go back, and you know, go to the gate and all that. But then when he turns around, Pennywise is gone, so, yeah. Something I never got about either movie. Why did he toy with them? I know he was trying to get their fear up in that. But, I mean, they were already super heightenedly scared. He should have made his move quicker. Because then maybe they wouldn't have been able to defeat him. But, let's see, what other... Also the part where frickin', where Richie's trapped alone when they all go to the house the first time, and, you know, nothing, you know, Richie sees something in the, don't see nothing in the coffin, and like a couple minutes later, Pennywise jumps out, and he's like, beep, beep, Richie, and then he goes after him, but Richie gets out of it. Also the part where he almost got Eddie again. Eddie fell down, he's like terrified, Pennywise comes out of a frickin' mini fridge or whatever it was, and he's like, drape it closer and closer and closer and closer to him. He's like taunting him while he's doing it. They almost eat him, but then Bill and all them show up to save him. Yeah. Also, I gotta say, something scarier, yeah, it was insinuated in the original one. But they actually went through with it in this newer one, and that is freaking Beverly's dad. Now look, when I watch the original one, I'm like, yeah, he must molest his daughter or something. But, you know, they never really show him actually trying to molest her. But then, toward the end of the first chapter, he does nearly try to molest her, but she knees him in the balls, and then she freaking runs into the bathroom, and he hits her with the, and she hits him with the toilet lid. So, yeah. And like I said, that was insinuated in the original one, but they never really, you know, they never really showed him doing anything. But they did actually show it in the newer one. And that's kind of terrifying when you think your safe place, especially when you got this crazy killer clown or alien killer clown trying to kill you. You think your safe place would be at home, but then you have to go home and worry about your freaking parent trying to sexually abuse you. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, it was kind of that's kind of scary. That's something that's scarier than the original one. Yeah, it was insinuated, or maybe he was just abusive. But in the newer one, it does insinuate that he tries to molest her. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's why Beverly, I don't think, was as scared as the boys were, because, you know, she had to deal with the stuff with her dad at home. In the original one, you know, like I said, the father just seemed like he was abusive, like, like physically abusive and not trying to molest her. But it was also insinuated that he's molested her before too in that one. But not as much as in this one, so I don't know. And I will say a few of the jump scares was kind of scarier. But yeah, let's talk about, I think, what's the most terrifying scene in the newer version of it, and that's the frickin' projectile scene. Because, they're looking at it's got a slide, and, Bill and them's looking at family photos, and then, you start seeing transform, and Pennywise finally comes out of projectile, scares the crap out of all the kids. So, yeah, that was, probably the most terrifying scene in the frickin' movie. And, and let me say this right now before I go any further, before I, get to the final thoughts on which one's scarier. But before I get to the final thoughts, what was I getting ready to say? Oh, this is not about which movie's better. This is about which movie's scarier. So that's what this is about. This ain't about which movie's better. It's about what's scarier. A lot of people love the old one. I'm with the people that like the older one. A lot of people love the new one. I can understand why people like the new one better. But honestly, so it's not about what's better. It's about what's scarier. But, I'll say though, I think the final battle in both parts of both movies, I think I'd give the edge to the older one as far as which was much scarier. But I don't know, it was pretty intense and terrifying toward the end of the final part of the first chapter. But it was also kind of intense and terrifying in, the first part, final chapter of that too, which is when Stan remembers what all happened. But, yeah, I mean, like I was saying, the practical effects, now that I think about it, now that I've done this video, I was saying the newer one's scarier. I think they're probably evenly matched as far as scariness goes. Because, I mean, honestly, my point was to try to make it, but I think they're equal in the scariness of both of them. Although I wasn't as scared of the older one. I wasn't as scared of this one either. I mean, the projectile scene was pretty scary, but it didn't scare me so much to where I, was just so terrified of the movie. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say they're even on which one's scarier, I guess, because honestly, both of them got a lot of scary moments in it. And I can see why my sister might be scared of freaking it. Oh, she was a little younger than me. I was like, what, I was about probably 7 or, probably about 7 or 8 when we saw the freaking miniseries. So, I wouldn't be as affected, and my sister was probably like, I don't know, 5 or 6 at the time. So, yeah. So, I mean, and my brother, he was only like, probably a year or two. Well, a year, because I think the movie came out in 1990. He was born in 89. Yeah, he was only a year old. He was still a baby. But, yeah, I guess, you can't say either one's scarier than the other because it seems like they're evenly matched after everything I talked about with the first one and everything I've talked about with this newer one. And, my whole point was to try to prove Ernie wrong. And I guess in a way I kind of did because, they seem like they're even on the scary meter as far as things I broke down. In the second parts of the movies, I'd say there were still some terrifying scenes in the newer chapter 2 because, the part where frickin' Billy has to see Pennywise kill that frickin' little kid, and he's just smashing his head into the mirror to frickin' get to the kid. Billy's trying to bust through to save the kid, but frickin' Billy couldn't save him, and he frickin' gets eaten. Let's see. That's what makes Billy decide, well, we're going to take it down once. In the original movie, that, he was mainly just messing with them. We got to take him down because he keeps terrifying us. The newer movie, Billy's motivated because he sees Pennywise kill another kid, and that makes him angry. Because, you know, that kid had played a role in the movie, earlier in the movie, like with freaking, when they're in a Chinese restaurant, after they just left the Chinese restaurant. I think he was, like, making fun of freaking Richie and all that. And then, you know, Richie get mad, saying stuff, but then they realize it's just a little kid. The parents come over. Not to mention, you know, and then there's a part where freaking Billy, where, you know, that kid's living in the old house that Billy was living in. And then the kid's talking to Billy after Billy just had another encounter with Pennywise. After he had bought his bike back. Which, by the way, he got gypped, man. He got gypped by Stephen King's character in that part. All because he knew the guy was a book writer. He freaking charges him a lot of money. I think Stephen King was a scalper in that movie. His cameo part was being a scalper in the new It movie. I'm like, dude, come on now. Just because he makes books of that doesn't mean you could gyp him out of a bunch of money. Anyway, back to, yeah, so, you know, after breaking down both movies, I guess I could say both movies are equally as scary. One's not scarier than the other. Yes, you know, it is scarier seeing frickin' Georgie actually eating than before. Also, you know, I think the scene between the book, where Billy's looking at the frickin' picture book, and frickin' Georgie's picture, he winks at Billy, and Billy drops the book, and he's freaking blood coming out of the book. And then I think it's scarier with him, you know, putting the guilt, because the big thing is Billy has all the guilt for freaking Georgie's death, because he lied to him, told him he was sick when he really wasn't, because he didn't want to play in the rain. And, you know, Georgie goes out and plays by himself. And then, you know, Billy also felt like, well, if I would have went with him, maybe Pennywise wouldn't have got him. And I would have been able to, and I'd still have my brother. But, yeah, the part where, you know, the water part where, you know, Pennywise is using Georgie as a puppet. And he's like, you lied and I died. You lied and I died. You lied and I died. Or, I think in the first chapter he was saying, it's all y'all fault. It's all y'all fault. Either way, I don't know. But, and then Pennywise jumps out at Billy. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. And yeah, I think Pennywise, outside of the voice in the newer movie, is kind of scarier than frickin' Pennywise in the old one. Because like I said, Tim Curry pretty much trying to be frickin' Freddy Krueger in that. Tim Curry's like, man, I'll be Freddy Krueger if you ever want a new Freddy Krueger. I wonder how people would feel if they did, if Tim Curry was in good health and you know, he was younger and they did cast him as Freddy Krueger. I don't know. But, who knows? But, yeah, I mean, outside the voice, yeah, I think the Pennywise in the newer one is more terrifying because, you know, and you actually see him eat the kids. Yeah, you see frickin' Tim Curry's Pennywise. Yeah, you see the vampire teeth and all that, but you don't really see him eat the kids. In the movie, the newer movie, you see him eat, like, Georgie, you see him eat the bully, you see him eat a little girl in the part 2, and then you see him eat that little boy in part 2 as well, chapter 2 of the frickin' It movie. And he almost ate frickin' Eddie. So, yeah. And I think it's interesting that they switched around things, you know, because in the original one, it was insinuated that Eddie was gay. But then in the newer one, it's pretty much it pretty much comes out and says, well, you know, actually it's frickin' Richie that was gay. So, yeah. Bill Hader played Richie, and his most famous character on Saturday Night Live was a gay character named Stefan. So, I don't know. I guess that's why they went with Richie being gay in the newer one. Now, you know, if you guys want me to break down which frickin' It movie I think is better, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you think the newer one's scarier or if the freaking older one's scarier. And let me know if now that I've just broke it down, if you feel like now that I feel that they're even in being scary. Let me know that in the comments. We'll say there's a few smidge. I'd say the newer one is a smidge bit scarier than the older one, especially with the fact Tim Curry is trying to be Freddy Krueger in the freaking movie. So, yeah. Anyway, I also got a new subscriber, so thanks to my new subscriber. And, you know, you guys go check out the other videos I did this week. I did the Jazzware video, which, thank God, somebody on the internet had sense to actually check into it, and that was freaking Matt Cardona on the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. And I usually don't watch Matt Cardona's, but when he talked about it, he said he went straight to the source and went to Jerry Padawer himself, and that Jerry Padawer said they're making AEW figures through 2026. So that means we're going to get a lot of AEW figures next year as well. So that means that partnership is not over yet. Like this. And, you know, that's the thing. You know, people sit there and they want to sit there and say, oh, you know, when you have to have somebody have a comment under your so-called report, which I didn't buy in the first place. And if you saw the video, you see I say I'm not going to listen to it unless somebody official says something, like somebody from AEW or somebody from Jazzware says something. And Matt Cardona went and took care of that, because we found out that they are still got the license to AEW figures into next year. So, I don't know. But when you have to have somebody confirm your report by claiming on a comment that, oh, they're very reputable and they got a lot of sources in Jazzwares, then, you know, that means you're either a liar or you're not in the loop as you think you are. You know, and I'm not gonna call somebody a liar, but come on now. How convenient that right after that there's a comment, right after that so-called report on Reddit, that someone comments automatically that that person's reputable. If you have to tell somebody you're reputable, that means you're not reputable. So I don't know. But anyway, yeah. I guess I'll finish off. Like I said, the bullies are scarier in the newer It movie. I mean, heck, Henry Bowers actually nearly kills the kids numerous times. They were even going to set Ben on fire, which is something they didn't do in the original movie. Then again, the original movie was a miniseries too. And, you know, the newer movies were, you know, big movie production studio made them. So, I don't know. But I guess they're even on the scares. You know, and the campiness too, because, you know, you saw I did the then I did the frickin' dance that was supposed to be an intense scene toward the end of chapter 1, but it just looked so frickin' funny and goofy. I can't help but laugh. Even when I watched it yesterday, I started laughing as soon as that scene came up. So anyway, let me know. I think the kids also, you know, outside of Jonathan Brandis in the original, I think all the kids actually were really, really scared in the newer one than they were in the original one. Outside of Jonathan Brandis' character, Billy, because he played Billy in the original one. Sadly, I can't believe he, you know, took his own life. He was a pretty good actor. I like movies that he's done, like Sidekick. I like Never Ending Stories 2. I like the It movie. And he's done a couple other movies that I liked. But anyway. Yeah, I guess depression or whatever it was that caused him to take his own life. I don't know. But, yeah. Anyway, that'll do it. You guys let me know which version of It you think is scarier. Do you think it's even like me? Do you think the newer one's scarier? Do you think the older one's scarier? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe for more. Follow my Facebook fan page, Mr. Hornsby 83 Show. Follow my Facebook business page, Trigen Toys. Also, Friday I'll be doing a toy hunt. I'm going to be hunting for the Batman Returns figures because they were supposed to come out last Friday. I'm going to see if the stores around here get it. I just hope I don't get hit with a copyright on Walmart again, because they play music loudly in the frickin'... I don't want to get another copyright. And plus, you know, I did announce Friday I was going to do the freaking playthrough of the Resident Evil 2 remake. But the tripod I was using for that is broken. So I'll do that one next week. And I'll have some other playthroughs coming up throughout the month of Halloween. And I'll probably talk about them Friday when I'm doing my toy hunt. But anyway, that'll do it. Catch you guys later. Peace out.